These are the presenters today, myself, David Newt, and Mike Masterson. We're both based in Houston, so I know we welcome a lot of the Houston office, but we are Houston customers, but we also have customers from North Texas and Louisiana on, so I appreciate you guys putting up with us today.
And we also have, behind the scenes, we also have Jesse Harvey, Mark McGinnis, Brian McKeska, and Joe Belasty. They're watching the question board, but also automation specialists and part of our team.
So let's get started on the PanelView discussion. So hopefully the PanelView +6 discontinuation is not brand new news to everyone. I know we've been talking about the move away from PanelView +6 for quite a while. What is a little bit different and maybe new to some of you is Rockwell has changed the discontinued date for many of the panels. Earlier this year, we were working with the assumption that many of the panels would be discontinued in the 9/30/2020, but that has been updated and extended for another year. However, now is still a great time to migrate your systems from +6 to +7, especially new systems, because you're going to see the price increase quite a bit as we get closer to that discontinued date for these products. Okay, and the next slide here, this is just a further discussion on the PanelView +6 discontinuation, but just so you know, the PanelView +7, this is an official letter from Rockwell saying that this platform will continue well into this decade, at least through 2025, but likely much longer. So this is just a letter to keep everybody comfortable that moving to the PanelView +7 is a good choice for the long term.
And I will, let me jump in here real quickly. A lot of our customers, sometimes to help motivate a migration and get something put in the budget for the following year, you might require a letter of the product life cycle. Please, if you ever need that type of documentation, reach out to your Reynolds account manager or automation specialist, and we can get that stuff for you.
Okay, so to the meat of the presentation here in the discussion, as you see here on the portfolio slide, PanelViews have been around for a long time and have taken a lot of different views and things. So we'll start, and again, these are our older panels, the PanelView Classic and the PanelView Standard. Those are the older panels. If anyone remembers the Classic, that would be your 1400 model, programmed with a software that really doesn't exist anymore. So if you still have those PanelView Classics, please let us know. But we really generally take those on a one-off basis on how we migrate those to the current technology. We're a few softwares behind, and even Microsoft OS is behind on that one. The focus of our discussion today is really going to be around the PanelView Standard, PanelView Plus, and PanelView +6s. And so quickly with the PanelView Standards, with the black bezel products, those were programmed with Panel Builder 32. And so that again is an older product. It is still available from Rockwell if you really need it. It's kind of considered a legacy software today, but that is a software that is still sort of around out there. And just so you know, there are migrations or you can import Panel Builder programs into PanelView, into Machine Edition. But again, you do need to do extensive work and making those products work well. And then we moved on to the PanelView Pluses, and the PanelView Pluses was the first product with Factory Talk Machine Edition. And those are some of the older machine editions. And those have much cleaner migrations on the software side up to the PanelView Plus 7 that we'll discuss today. And now that Rockwell's made their discontinuation announcement on the PanelView Plus 6s, we kind of view the Plus 6s as legacy product as well, even though you can still purchase new product. So when we get into PanelView migrations, there's really two pieces that we have to work on, and we work with customers quite closely on. Number one is really the hardware and how we match the old hardware with the new hardware. And that's critical. We get that right, and we'll go through a lot of the resources and some of the experiences that we've had to help you guys make that work. But we also, and there's also the software conversion, and so we will talk about that as well in certain instances. And with the newer versions of Machine Edition, version 10 and 11, that software conversion has gotten a lot cleaner and easier. So with that, I think we'll move to the next slide. Okay, so enter the PanelView Plus 7. So the Plus 7 is the natural migration for all these panel views in the past. And so PanelView Plus 7 is our current product, and we've extended, helps us extend this portfolio even further into the future. So a little bit about the PanelView Plus 7. It's been out for a while, 4 or 5 years. So a lot of you are experienced in using it. But there were some changes from the 6 to the 7. Kind of most importantly is kind of what we call the unibody or the single approach, whereas there's one part number for the logic and the screen is all one piece. With the PanelView Plus 6s, you had screen options and logic options, and then you kind of plug them together. The 7 consolidates all that. And there's some other important things with the PanelView Plus 7. Number one is unlike the Plus 6, there's no comms module to plug in either. So our communication options in the PanelView Plus 7 are Ethernet. And so that is a possible change. And again, that's going to drive a lot of our discussion today is what if you don't have Ethernet today? How do we get from point A to point B? How do we migrate those non-Ethernet systems? So I think we're ready for the next slide. So with the PanelView Plus 7, there's actually 2 different models that are out there. For those of you that don't know, we'll talk briefly about the standard HMI first, and the PanelView Plus 7 standard. It's designed to be used in a little bit smaller type applications. If you look in the bottom left of the slide, the application size limits, this is key to understanding the migration strategy, because the standard HMI only supports connecting to one controller. So if you had a PanelView Plus 6 that was connected to more than one controller, you need to move to the performance unit. And we'll talk about that next. But it also some screen size limits. So it's limited to 100 screens, and that's on the newer Machine Edition software. When this PanelView Plus 7 came out, I think it was version 8 was the first release, there was only 25 screens supported. So as the software has released, we've increased some of those limits. And there's up to today, which is 100 screens. And also, there's a limit of 500 or less alarms. And that doesn't sound significant, maybe at first glance, but if you're using some of the ALMA and ALMD blocks in your logic, you can approach that 500 alarm limit very quickly. So those are something to keep in mind, certainly on the standard HMI. Are those application limits. Also, kind of moving on, you can see the sizes. So a lot of the standard sizes are there, all the way up to 15-inch. The standard does support DLR if you wanted to use a DLR, if you had a DLR network. And as you can see, some of the other features here. I think we're ready for the next slide. So the performance HMI, we say for demanding industries, but if you look at the application limits here, much larger, so we can go up to 300 screens, 3,000 tags, third-party tag, 4,000 alarms. So a much larger application. And for our larger size HMIs, like the 10s and the 12s, this is our fundamentally our #1 recommendation is to go from the PanelView +6 to the +7 performance. And there's also some things that were available in the +6 that are available in the performance, like the Windows CE extended features. So those are things like extra Windows features, like a full web browser, a media player, those kinds of things. If you're doing that stuff in your application, then you definitely need the +7 performance. I think we're ready for the next slide. Okay, and so here's a side-by-side comparison. And so, so again, a lot of the things are the same. Programming the same software. There's the memory is the same, etc. Kind of the MPEG video playback and the Office viewers and things. That's what we call the extended features set of Windows CE. That's only in the +7 performance model. And again, really the key takeaway here is the application size. So if your application has more than 500 alarms, you definitely have to go with the performance model. Okay, go ahead. Okay, and this slide is a good demonstration of migrating each individual in a graphical kind of form of moving from a 6 to a 7. And so, and these, again, these are the performance display sizes. So anything, the 6.5 and the 10, 12s and 15s, our primary recommendation is going to be to move to the performance HMI. And you'll see that listed in the documentation. We're going to talk about, maybe one of the key takeaways today in this presentation is, where do I get a lot of this information if I'm going to approach migrating a PanelView, and Rockwell has a lot of that resource documentation. Towards the end, the last slide will have give you access to all of that documentation. But so primary from a 6, 12, 10, 12, and 15, we recommend the performance HMI. And another thing to keep in mind, because of the technology change, Rockwell has changed the size of the +7 displays. So we will need some adapter plates. If you're swapping out an existing system that's running, when you disconnect the 6 and you put in a 7, you will need some adapter plates, and we do have those listed on the next slide. So here we are. All these catalog numbers represent the adapter plates that are available if you're taking an existing system that's currently running and you want to run it in the same cutout in your panel. So these are all available for you.
Okay.
For the next slide. Okay.
And now,
yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Okay. I'll take this because I'm older than you, David, and I sort of know the PanelView Standard better than you. The PanelView Standards is basically any of the old panel views that have a black bezel that were programmed with Panel Builder 32. There is documentation on migrating those to a PanelView plus 7. The documentation, and we do have the pub number there, 2711P AP002. That will give you the adapter plates needed for the migration to PanelView plus 7, but it also walk you through the code procedure, how you can import a Panel Builder 32 file into FactoryTalk ME and start doing the conversion. And the conversion will not be 100%. It will take you a good chunk of the way there, but quite often you will have to go through some logs and do some cleanup on it. This will walk you through what you need, how do you need to approach your migration of the code. So very good documentation, and this is also on our documentation slide at the end of the this presentation. Okay, next slide. Now, the communication considerations. Finding a adapter plate is actually kind of easy. The hard part migrating the old panel views is we used to have a plethora of communications. We had DH45, remote IO, DF1. I hate to say it, we had ControlNet. All these were typical HMI type networks. Well, now that we're using the PanelView plus 7, Ethernet is the way we need to approach our PanelView HMI. So we need to use communications adapters quite often furnished by third-party vendors or Rockwell and Compass partners. And we want to talk about some of these tools to help your migration. So, all right. First one is HMS AnyBus. They have their communicator. This is for your serial communications to Ethernet IP. It will pretty much does all the data tables inside of it. Very easy setup software. But your serial type connections to from your old panel views, this is how we would approach those type connections. Quite often this would be like a Micrologix migration. This is the type of product we would use. Okay. Next slide. Now, for there are a few PLC5s still out in the field, like way too many. For that case, we have the ProSoft gateway. This is an Ethernet IP to DH Plus and remote IO. This has been a lifesaver in a lot of our PLC5 migrations, and this is typically what we would use from any of the old PanelView standards that relied on using remote IO or Data Highway Plus to bring it back to one of our new HMIs or controllers. So this product has been out for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, and it works very well. I don't think we have a lot of complaints on the product, and it's actually saved a lot of people. So keep that in mind for those PLC5 conversions. And next, we have the DH485 router. After the PLC5, the SLC 503 with its DH485 comms has always been kind of a pain to migrate over. This gateway allows an easy interface to take our DH485 type equipment, and again, that could be some Micrologix, it could be the SLC 503, and bring them back to Ethernet IP. Again, these are all proven methods to help us migrate the older, especially I see this a lot in the PanelView standards, to a PanelView plus 7. Okay. Now, before I start looking at some new products, I want to say there are other solutions for some of these other comms. There are ways to approach the ControlNet and some of the other protocols. What I would suggest, if you do have questions on migrating from some of the oddball serial type communications, please get with your account manager or your Rockwell or your Reynolds specialist, and we help walk you through that. Now I want to address a couple of well, actually one new product and a solution. So first, now we have the PanelView Plus 7 Performance with a stainless steel bezel. This is really for the food and bev type industry. So it does have the FDA certs for the gasket, and it can be completely wiped down. So that is available now. Hopefully we will find some new food and bev customers in Houston to replace some of our oil and gas ones. All right, next slide. Now, with the PanelView Plus 6 going away, that takes away our only high bright panel view we have. As if you've used one of our high brights in the past, you'll know you've always had to purchase this in two parts. You bought a high bright PanelView Plus 6 display module, then you would buy the appropriate logic module to snap on the back. Well, that will be going away, and it's getting more and more costly. So as an alternative to using a high bright PanelView Plus 6, which you still will be able to get through next year, one solution we have is using one of our 6181X industrial PCs. Again, this is a PC, and you can put a factory talk UME runtime license on it to do pretty much everything your PanelView would do. This is a high bright display. It is 1300 nits. And just like the other PanelView Plus 6 high bright, 12 inch is the only size we have that comes in. But keep in mind, if you do need a high bright display, that could be done from a PC as long as you're running Factory Talk UME runtime license on the PC. Okay. Next one. This is the general slide. A lot of stuff we talked about this morning is covered here. We put the pub numbers of everything to do with PanelView migration, along with some very important tech notes, like can you use a USB to serial converter to bring a serial connection back to a PanelView. So these, and we'll make this public to everybody. This is all the documentation that will get you pointed in the right direction. Okay. This one. And in the time of COVID-19, we have also put HMI cleaning instructions on how to clean a PanelView or a PanelView 800 terminal. So we also have the chemical resistance documentation on this also, to see, so you know what solvents are safe to use on the PanelView. So this information is readily available, and we just want to make it easy for you guys to find. And with that, I think that's all we have. Do we have any questions?
There are no questions at this time.
Okay. Well, David, I thank you for attending. Thursday, we'll be looking at a migrating control logics controllers, the L5s and the L6s, the L7s. We'll be addressing that. In the meantime, we look forward to seeing you guys out in the field and addressing our WebExes. So again, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. Have a
We
great rest of your day.
We intend on posting this presentation, so we can also provide you with a web link as well, so you can pull this down. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thanks.
Good day.